Good afternoon. My name is Galia Varona. I work with Miami-Dade County, and I'm here today to present you the seagrass changes associated with long-term three areas of Biscayne Bay and long-term algae blooms. So thank you very much to my collaborators and to Professor Ligia Collado from FIU, who's always being a big partner with us. Ooh, sorry. So a brief story about the Biscayne Bay Benthic Habitat Monitoring Program. We start around 1985 with 10, now 11 fixed survey transits. The monitoring expanded at the end of the 90s with 101 stratified stations, which is the blue area. The fixed stations are the red dots. And also we have a similar program in the south, Biscayne Bay, in the area of Manatee Bay, Barnett Sound, also starting at the end of the 90s with 24 more stations. Moving forward in 2010, we start expanding our monitoring to cover some issues and gaps that we start seeing through our historical data. So we created this special sampling in 2010 in this purple area, which is an ongoing algae bloom. And we also expanded in 2016 following all the seagrass die-off in the North Biscayne Bay area. Between 2016 and 18, we monitored Julia turtle and expanded to the whole area of North Biscayne Bay. You can see all the points. Not necessarily we do all the points in the purple, but we did do all the points in the red one. So additional to that, we expanded also in 2018 with 12 more stations to cover that gap between the green and the blue. And through our historical monitoring, as I mentioned, we saw that we have overall a stable seagrass community through Biscayne Bay until 2004, 2005. And since that time, we see that we have 3 long-term multi-year algae blooms that have been recorded in 3 different areas. The first one, we start in south to north because we are chronological, not geographical. So around 2005, we see a Synechococcus bloom, which is a phytoplankton bloom that caused seagrass die-off in the area of Manatee Bay, Barnett Sound. Then moving up to the purple area, we have the Anadiomen bloom that started around the same time, but we actually realized that it was serious in 2010, which is a drift green macroalgae. It's not phytoplankton. And it caused seagrass die-off. And moving up to North Biscayne Bay, we have increases on Halimida, which is a rhizophytic green algae. This follow up the seagrass die-off in North Biscayne Bay. So this is not the cause of what happened there. The seagrass recovery have been marked by a species shift, and instability in these areas is still dominated by macroalgae and chlorophyll levels. So again, south to north. Chronological order. We have very stable low values of chlorophyll before 2005. So about between 2005 and 2008, we can see this huge spike of chlorophyll, like 20 times higher than the base levels. And following that period, we see a decline of chlorophyll. It goes back like apparently to the normal low values, but it's not so much. It's kind of double than what it was before, and you see the bars with the high variability in the levels of chlorophyll. When we look at our benthic habitat monitoring data, we have the Thalassia in green and total green algae, and we will try to keep that pattern of green for seagrass and red for algae. So we have the total green macroalgae, and you can see that Thalassia was pretty high previous to that bloom. Then by 2000, during the bloom period, there is a decline. We go back to some kind of stability, but you can see the coverage of Thalassia, it goes to a lower level. And then by 2019, we see a shift where Thalassia has a second decline starting around 2017, and start from 2019 to the present, the coverage of Thalassia is lower than the green algae in that area. So in order to see that represented in terms of spatial distribution, these are the values that you have in 2005, where basically you have about 50% coverage of seagrass, the green, on this map across all that area. The algae coverage is kind of like low, then by 2009, the end of the phytoplankton bloom, you have a drop about 25%. And then moving forward, what we have left is like around 5% of the coverage in Miami-Dade Bay Barney Sound, where you see that still the algae is very widely distributed. It's not high, but it's bigger and it's more abundant than seagrass. So going to the North Central Inshore area, the anadromane algae blooms. So here we see that up to 2008, we have a dense variable seagrass. We have high seagrass coverage. So when we talk about, I'm going to talk about a lot about density and coverage. Density is the amount of individuals that you have of a species. So we have all the people here are the density. And the coverage is the space that they cover in the bottom. So we have a density about, like, I don't know, 20 people and a coverage of 50%, 25%. I'm going to be conservative of this room. Okay, so moving forward. So we have a shift in 2009 when we see that big spike. Oh, let's see, where is the button? Oh, what did I do? Can you fix it? Okay, thank you. So we see a big spike. The red bars go out of chart on the increase of macroalgae. Then we have, following that period, we have a period from 2015 to 22 where we start seeing recovery of halodule, and we start seeing like there was a lot of benthic rhizophytic algae, which is good, and we were like, hey, we are going back to normal. And then we have a second problem. Back in 2023, we see that the algae increased back to the levels that there was before in the bloom period. And there is a kind of similar distribution, frequency distribution, which is the number of stations that we have with different kind of algae. So we have that we see a constant continuous decline in the seagrass on the top. You see that the dark green is like stations are 50% more coverage of seagrass and how they come down constantly. And then by 2012, where we were in the high bloom peak, we have this distribution of seagrass and algae. You can see how much algae we have in the right. And we have the period where we thought that everything was going fine and we were going back to normal. And then we have back in 2025, you see exactly the same situation that we have during the bloom. So it's like a resurgence of the bloom. I will not say it's a second one because it's the same. It's just came back stronger. So North Biscayne Bay, everybody talks about North Biscayne Bay. It's our more recent seagrass decline, but you can see that we have previous declines there. And interestingly, if you see that graphic, which is the density, the amount of individuals, you see that the density spikes right before the decline. So when you have too much seagrass, it's not necessarily good. That means that it's too much nutrients, that means there is a lot of biomass, and at some point it's too much for the ecosystem and they collapse. So that's one of the takeoff of these stations. But the last one was really ugly. The last one, you see like the values of seagrass like go really, really, really down. So by that time, we have a lot of instability. The little seagrass that was remaining, it was shifting all back and forth. Then become more stable. Then we say, okay, we have a really, really bad situation, and we went full blown, and we span our 4 fixed stations to 230 to cover the whole area. And we can see through the period a continuous increase from 2018 to the present. And right now we have more seagrass than algae. Has been continually increasing. You can see a little bit decline on the coverage of benthic algae, which this is very good, this signal of recovery. This is a 2018 seagrass versus algae. We have seen recovery in the whole area of Biscayne Bay. This is 2025. You can see how good it is now. The declines on the main benthic macroalgae species, which is Halimeda. And the only exception of that is the northern part of the area where we have Caulepa. And Caulepa is mixed with Halimeda. So we have fleshy algae and calcareous algae, and this caulepa is a kind of, we found it also offshore, impacting the reefs that are in the area, in the offshore area. So we are collaborating with FIU and other institutions in seeing if the same one inside and outside of the bay, and finding the connection with that. So in summary, the southern ear of Manatee Bay vanished down, experiencing a moderate increase in Thalassia testudineum, and following the bloom, then there was a second seagrass, and run out of time. Okay, that's all. Thank you very much. Thank you to all our wonderful group of scientists. They are represented there, Marcus and Damaso, which are now outside in the field, and our college and all the people around here that contribute with us to the health of the ecosystem.